This is a summary and analysis of the short story Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This story was written in 1835. It's a very interesting story. So the story begins with young Goodman Brown. He's a man who, he's living during the age where you have the Salem witch trials. And the story begins with him. He's saying goodbye to his wife. He's about to leave for the night. And he tells his wife that I'm going to be gone for the night. I have a meeting that I have to keep, so I can't stay. And his wife tries to say, why don't you stay with me for tonight? Don't go. It's kind of like the thing where, let's say, a husband and wife, the man wants to go out, or a spouse wants to go out, and one says stay, and the other one says I have to go. So it's that whole thing with the beginning of the story. So young Goodman Brown leaves. He's kind of sad in a way when he leaves Faith in the beginning of the story, but he leaves and he goes to the woods. Now, one thing to keep mind of in this short story is the pink ribbon that is on Goodman Brown's wife's head. It's a pink ribbon, and that's something we need to keep track of as we go through this summary. So, young Goodman Brown goes off in the woods. Um, what's important to note about that is that the deeper he gets into the woods, the more his journey becomes darker. So it's like a descent from heaven or a descent from goodness into darkness, because the story starts off very sweet, very gentle, and then it just jumps into this whole abyss where Goodman Brown starts to descend. So Goodman Brown is walking in the woods, and he sees from afar this man that's sitting by an old tree. And the man says, I've been waiting for you. Where have you been? And what's important to know about this man is that he resembles the devil. He has a staff that kind of bends and twirls like if it was like a snake. And he says that, he's been around for a long time and that he knows a lot of people. So him and young Goodman Brown, they walk in the woods together, and the more the deeper they get into the woods, the more the situation escalates. And the man who has the staff, he starts to become the devil. In my mind, as I read the story, it became like the man is the devil, because he was telling Goodman Brown that your family members, the people that you think are great Christians, they're not really great Christians. They've done a lot of bad things, and that I know of them, and that I've been there to help them commit things that are very horrific, and that he's been there to help them commit things that are not particular um, good things that Christians would do. But young Goodman Brown kind of like fights against this. He's saying, my grandfather and my father are good people. They've never done anything bad. You're lying. But the devil here says, no, I'm telling the truth. And that, you should join me because your parents and your family members have been doing the same thing for ages. So it comes to a point where young Goodman Brown says in the story, I'm not going to move forward with you. I want to be good, basically. And he runs off. He leaves the man that resembles the devil. And he goes off into the woods. What's interesting about this is Goodman Brown kind of, in of a way, descends into darkness. Now, here's where this gets tricky. If you read the short story Young Goodman Brown, in the end of the story, you can say that Young Goodman Brown doesn't accept evil, but there are parts within the short story that suggest that he does accept it. And that reflects on human nature, because it is true that all humans are sinners. If in the Christian definitions, every human is a sinner. So young Goodman Brown is not pure, and nobody around him is pure. So even though that this short story sets Goodman Brown to look like if he is a righteous man, he is not completely a righteous man. Even though that he doesn't accept the devil, that doesn't mean he's sinless. So young Goodman Brown starts running around the woods. He at one point he even says like, "Okay, there's no heaven above my head." So that kind of symbolizes that he starts to think about, is there, more? Is there religion as I'm thinking of it? And eventually, what happens is he stumbles upon this ritual, and this is where the devil is trying to bring him in the first place. This meeting where all of the people that young Goodman Brown, um, revered, all of the people that young Goodman Brown looked up to as he was growing up, they were there in the satanic meeting worshiping the devil. And this really shook him because his minister was there. The people that were Christians that he trusted were there. And this really changed the world in his eyes because his minister, brings him to accept Satan. So this when this happens in the novel, it kind of symbolizes young Goodman Brown loses his trust in humanity because all of the people that he trusted were there worshiping the devil. All of the people that he probably asked for religious guidance, they're there doing what they are preaching against. So young Goodman Brown is presented in front of this I guess, satanic church or this satanic meeting. And here's where everything even gets worse. His wife Faith is there, and when they present him to her, and vice versa, he is stunned because in his mind, Faith, his wife Faith, is pure. His wife Faith is sinless. Now, this is what's interesting about his wife, young Goodman Brown, and his wife Faith. What we need to note about this is that her name is Faith. This is very obvious. Nathaniel Hawthorne is a great writer, and the reason why he says puts Faith as the name of young Goodman Brown's wife is to show us that in of a way, young Goodman Brown loses his faith, and he does lose his faith physically and literally. What I mean by that is he had this faith in his wife that she was pure, that she was nothing but good. But that pink ribbon that young Goodman Brown saw on Faith's head before he went to the woods, that was there. You know, everyone that he believed to be good are at the satanic ritual, and he basically saying what's real, what can I believe in if everyone that I've looked up to are like everyone that I've looked up to who are Christians are doing this. So what's important to note is that Goodman Brown does not accept the satanic situation. They're about to baptize him or put in an insignia on his forehead or like anoint him, to be clear. But he doesn't accept it. At the last minute, he says to his wife, "Don't accept it." He resists, and at the end of the story, he wakes up in the woods, and he thinks that, or it's assumed that he dreamt the whole thing. And when he goes back home, his relationship with his wife Faith changes. Um, he is not as trusting towards her as he was, and his whole mood becomes in this melancholy state where he doesn't know who to believe or who to trust. And he dies a sad man, even though he stays with his wife. They have kids, they have a family, but he's not happy because he thinks that everyone around him um, are sinners. He doesn't accept his ritual. He doesn't accept, um, you know, being a part of this cult. But even though he doesn't do this, we can't say that Goodman Brown is pure because he was the person who decided to go into the woods for the purpose. The story begins with him telling his wife, "I have a meeting to keep." So, if we are to believe that he is completely perfect, then why did he even set up a meeting in the first place? Because when he meets the devil in the woods, the devil had an appointment with him. And that's something we should think about when we're thinking about this story. Why does Goodman Brown have an appointment with the devil if he's completely perfect, or if he's completely sinless? So we have to take this and analyze it. I have to say that young Goodman Brown doesn't accept it, but there is enough evidence to say that he is a sinner and that he's not perfect. So this story, the reason why it's very famous, it's because first of all, you know, we often trust people without really knowing who they are. Young Goodman Brown trusted a lot of people in his community, and they let him down. And in the same way, sometimes we in real life we can trust people that are not what we think they are. Another thing to recognize here is that the story ends with the note saying that everything that just happened with the Satanic Ritual and all that, it was all a dream. So maybe Goodman Brown dreamt the whole thing, or maybe it's him reflecting on who he is inside. There's a lot of ways we can interpret this story, but in the end, what we can take from it, from my perspective, what we can take from it is that you don't really know who's around you, and you don't know what lurks, um, what lurks in the presence of the people that you're around. So that's one interpretation of the story. I hope you guys enjoyed this summary and explanation. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for another video.